Hey guys, it's Sheri Vegas and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be creating a really rustic style serving board that's going to have some like natural native flowers in it. So I've gotten a slab of a tree trunk, and I thought, you know, it would be really cool in the holes to put some flowers, resin it, and make it into like either a serving board that you could put like cheese and nibblies on, or you could have it as like a statement sort of piece where you could put like something decorative like candles and stuff on it. Oh my god, so this is the slab that I have. It was just given to me, and I kind of like, it's not big enough necessarily for a coffee table, and I also don't think it's like been planed completely even. And it was just, it's not been treated either, so I didn't want to turn it into a coffee table or anything like that, but I thought it could be like a really cool decorative piece or serving board. So in this hole I want to put resin and like dry flowers, and I want to chop that bit off because it kind of is a bit just weird sticking out. So I'm going to chop this off, and then I'm going to resin and put like flowers in the holes. And this could either be like a decorative thing that you stick on like a table, or you could use it as a serving board for like more like large plattery spreads. I think it's going to be really pretty, but the first few steps that I need to do is I need to get all of the loose bark off, I need to sand it, and I need to chop this part off, and then I can get started on the fun part, which is resining it. So I just used a power saw to cut those bits off and to cut that end bit, and then went back in with a jigsaw just to shape it. Then I'm going to be using a chisel to get all the bark off, and then a wood rasp just to curve it and shape it a bit. Okay guys, so I've just finished sanding this and chopping off the bits that I didn't want and chiseling it, and this is how it's looking. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I did keep bark on some of the edge because I do like the natural look, but I did take it off in the areas where it was really loose and was going to fall off anyway. And I've just given it a good sand and chiseled it back. I've done this to the best of my ability. I'm not a woodworker, I'm a resin artist, but obviously I had to do a bit of woodworking for this. So don't come at me if you looked at my woodworking skills and was just like, oh my god, because I do resin, not woodworking, but I think it's turned out pretty good considering my skill set and my tools available. If I have a little triangle on my face at the moment, it's because I was wearing my mask when I was sanding, because I always wear it when I was sanding, and I had goggles on too, because there's nothing worse than like sand in your eyes. Not sand, sawdust in your eyes. So yes, next step is sealing this. So I'm going to be sealing this with resin. Wood releases a lot of oxygen, so if I was to just do a pour of resin right now onto this, it's just going to have so many bubbles in it. So I need to seal parts where I'm going to be applying the resin, just to prevent that from happening. So today I'm using the Barnes casting resin, which is the epoxy cast. And I'm just going to be pouring it over all of these bits and then letting it drip into this plastic box that I've got underneath just to seal it. You could use like a wood varnish, wood sealer, but this wood, because it's not being treated, it's just going to soak so much up, and you're just going to burn through it. So I'm just going to be using a little bit of resin just to seal it. And see, you can see those little bubbles now coming up to the surface. it's really releasing like a lot of air. So if I was to just do a deep pour straight away, I would get so many bubbles in this. So by doing a really thin pour, it's letting the bubbles come up. But you can see them all like coming up to the surface and popping. And then I'm going to turn this over and do the other side as well. So that is why I've got that bucket underneath, to catch it all. And then you can just re-pour this back in. So that way you're not going through a bunch of resin. Now it's time for the next step, and I think if you've watched a lot of like how they make river top tables, they always make little sort of dams, I guess is the best way you could describe them, like boxes out of melamine, and then seal them up with silicone and stuff like that. We're only resining the inside bit. I'm not doing like a full square, so I don't really need to worry about that, because the weight of this is going to be enough to hold it down when I do put the resin in. Which I know some of you might be like, what? But I'm going to be putting baking paper down. You can also use like a melamine piece if you've got that, or if you've got like the nice thick plastic that resin just pulls off, you can use that. So I'm putting down non-stick baking paper, because that way when this is done, I can just rip the back off, and if any of it gets stuck, I can just sand it, because I'm going to have to sand the back of this anyway. So I'm going to put down some baking paper, I'm going to put this slab on top, and because it's so heavy, it's not going to float, or the resin's going to like bucket out when I do start to pour the resin in. I am going to pour the resin in little bit by little bit. I'm not just going to do one big pour, for a few reasons. If I do one big pour, I could get bubbles, and I'm more likely, like, they're going to be harder to get if it's like this thick, because you know your blowtorch and your heat gun and all of that only go down 1 centimeter. So I'm only going to be doing 1 centimeter at a time. Plus, with just doing 1 centimeter at a time, that's going to seal off when that dries, and then I can keep pouring and pouring, and no more is going to pour out, because that's going to act as a little barrier for the rest of the resin. So I've mixed up only a little bit of resin, because I just want to create that first dam. I am going to be getting some of the resin pouring out, because this board isn't completely flat, but this will just create that dam to start with. The only place I really need to worry about is this place to create that barrier, because now that these have got resin and they're going to be sealed once it dries, that when I do pour resin through that's not going to leak anymore. It's just this big area where you're going to be able to see straight through. So now I've just got to wait for this probably about 4 hours before I can do my next layer, and I'm just going to keep building up, going slower and slower. But once this is fully dry, then I'm not going to have any more resin like leaking out through. So it's a really simple way to do something like this without having to build a full frame out of melamine, sealing it with silicone, and then having to break the frame to get it out. So it's time to do the next pour. I have decided I want to add a little bit of sparkle, because I think if you guys have been watching my channel for long enough, you know that one of my favorite products to use is the Artisue Sparkle White. I'm only going to be adding like a tiny bit, because this product, like a little bit goes a really long way. I have a discount code for all of the Artisue pigments too. So if you ever want to get any, I always leave it down in my description box. But like, look how much pigment you get. And I'm going to be using probably even less, like that much per layer. Like, hold up, let's see if the camera focuses. So I'm going to be using that much per layer. So not much at all, because a little goes a really long way. So I think each layer I'm using about 60 to 80 mils of resin. So not a crazy amount. So I'm going to pour this one. Use my heat gun. So I'm just pouring little bit by little bit and then going and popping it with a heat gun and pulling out any like dust or dirt that might be coming off the timber. It is really hard when you do work with natural products to get a perfectly like clear pour. Now I've got some flowers that I'm actually going to start sticking in that section. So these are all dried flowers that I've got on hand, and I'm going to start placing them down. So this is the top, so I've just got to make sure that I've got the prettiest ones coming up to the top. So I'm going to slowly be layering them. So, and also too, you don't want to do it on your first layer because you might have some that stick out. So do your first layer, and then when it comes to your second layer, start placing how you want them. Something you've got to consider when you are going to be putting a natural material like this in is they're going to release air as well, so you need to make sure you keep an eye and that you don't get more and more bubbles. So I'm just going to really centimeter by centimeter by centimeter. It's probably going to take me, I'd say, like 10 pours. So I'll probably just do one every 2 hours and just come back and check on it and check on it. Because if I do one deep pour, I'm just going to get so many bubbles. Okay guys, so I finally finished doing my many layers of pouring resin to fill this up, and I've got to say I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. The next step is to take the paper off the back, the non-stick grease-proof paper, and to sand the back, to sand the front, and then after you're happy with that, all you've got to do is then do your last sort of coat of resin on the top, so that way it looks super pretty. So that's how it's looking. I'm pretty happy with it. Straight off. Just like that, and then I've just got to give it a sand, and because obviously it's not even on the back because a little bit of the resin has like seeped through, so I've got to sand it and then resin it again. This paper pretty much lifts straight off because it's just your non-stick baking paper, which does make your life a bit easier. But because this bottom wasn't level to start with, if I had leveled it, I probably would have it a lot more even right now. But all I'm going to do is just sand it on back and get a nice flat even surface. But as you can see, it's got ridges and stuff like that. But this piece wasn't given to me level, it's just an old cut off, so you've got to make do with what you've got. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good, and it's a pretty easy technique and little trick just to use some baking paper instead of building a proper like melamine slab. Okay guys, so I've sanded it back and now I'm just doing a flood coat. I am using art resin for this just because I want to put food on this, and art resin is food safe. And they've also got a really good UV resistance rating, and I just really like art resin. They've also been tested, so they do say it's food safe. So I'm just going to flood coat it now, and I've lifted it up because it's no longer got the paper backing, so I've just lifted it up so it can all drip. I have latexed underneath here, so that way when all the drips come I can just peel it off, because I've just sanded all of it down, so I don't want to have to re-sand it again. And there isn't any Artisue sparkle powder in my top coat because I just wanted to keep the sparkles to those like little areas. So this is just a completely clear top coat. I do say, like, after doing this project, I definitely am going to invest in buying a wood planer, just because that would have made my life so much easier for this. And also getting someone to cut the wood properly. This just came off a farm when they were like cutting down their trees. So definitely going and getting wood that's already been cut down evenly would help a lot too. But I got this for free, so I can't complain about getting a really nice piece of wood like this for free. So now I'm just using my stirring stick to help push the resin along, just making sure like the surface area gets covered, and then using my heat gun every so often just to pop bubbles, because I will get a few bubbles in a top coat, and because it's clear you really do see the bubbles, so I need to make sure I am getting all of that covered, because the last thing I want in my last coat of resin is to end up with it full of bubbles. Thank you guys so much for watching that tutorial. I had so much fun making this piece. This is the first kind of like a river top that I have made, so it's not 100% perfect, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. If you wanted to, you could add legs and make it into like a side table, but I'm gonna leave this as a really like stunning serving board that I can use at my next sort of party and do like really pretty cheese platter on it. You can really do whatever you want with it. I am really happy with this piece. Let me know your thoughts below. Do you like the flowers in the center? Is this something that you would try at home? And don't forget, I have all my other social medias that you can go and follow me on. It's all Sheri Vegas, and you can tag me. I'd love to see people's creations. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and please do subscribe if you want to see more resin tutorials. I also do other art styles, craft and DIY projects all the time. So yeah, please give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. It does really help me out. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys so much.